A relationship can end and still have its hand around your throat long after that person is gone. This is the part that will catch you off guard. Distance gets created. Time passes. The phone goes quiet. The fight stops. Then somebody new walks in and your body acts like danger beat him there. A text lands the wrong way and your stomach drops. A pause stretches 2 seconds too long and something inside of you tightens. He gets close in a kind of way and part of you wants him to be there while the other part is reaching for the exit before you even know why. Nothing has happened, nobody yelled, nobody lied, and nobody threatened anything. Even so, your body is already moving furniture around for a storm that has not yet arrived. Your mornings can feel like this. You are standing in the kitchen with a coffee in your hand and your nervous system is halfway through a prediction before your brain is even finished waking up. Your evening can also feel like this. You're in the car replaying one sentence because the tone shifted and your whole body caught it. Sleep or bedtime can feel the worst of all. Somebody is beside you, the room is quiet. Instead of resting, you are measuring distance, reading energy, and trying to tell if this is safety or just the calm before something turns. After long enough, your body gets so used to that way of living that peace stops feeling simple, it starts feeling suspicious. This mess is exactly what this podcast episode is about. You can leave abuse and still have survival follow you into every room that love tries to enter. You want a fresh start, but you still feel more chemistry with chaos than calm. You can swear you are done with pain and still find yourself drawn to what keeps you slightly off balance because some part of you still trusts familiar danger more than unfamiliar peace. Then you sit there thinking maybe your standards are too high, maybe your picker is broken, maybe you are impossible to love, or maybe this is just your personality now. It is not your personality. Pain taught your body how to move, and now those moves are showing up in places that are supposed to feel like love. Today's conversation is going to hit both sides, the abuse recovery and dating after abuse. The RRR membership is where the root gets dealt with. The Black Cat Academy is what happens when that repair starts changing the way you date, choose, trust, receive, and walk away. One handles the damage, the other shows you what power looks like when the damage stops choosing for you. I'm Megan Webster. I'm an abuse recovery coach, a trauma-informed strategist, and the woman a narcissist hopes to never meet twice. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast where survival ends, shadow becomes power, and you rise as the woman impossible to manipulate, magnetize, or replace. Today, we are talking about why trauma responses are fucking up your relationships. Trauma responses do not always look messy. Most people miss their trauma responses because they keep expecting them to show up loud enough to scare them. They think they will spot them in chaos, tears, blow-ups, obvious panic, or something big enough that nobody in the room could miss. A lot of the time, this is not how this works. Old pain can make itself look normal enough that you stop questioning it. It can live inside being private, careful, hard to read, hard to impress, emotionally contained, or just not that needy. From the outside, that can look strong, but from the inside, for your body, that's expensive. You feel the cost in everyday places. It's in the kitchen when somebody's tone changes half an inch and your body notices before your brain does. It's in the car where one sentence keeps going around your nervous system because it's trying to get a hold of the shift before it turns into something worse. It's at night when you should be sleeping when the other person is next to you and your body will still not let go. That kind of survival does not need a public scene to prove that it's there. It shows up in the way your body keeps doing background work all day long. Stay ready. Stay ahead. Do not ask for too much. Do not get caught off guard. Leave room to leave. It shows up in how some of you speak when something matters to you. The point in your trust is simple, but by the time it leaves your mouth, it's become softened, defended, explained, and made easier for the other person to handle. Under that is not a woman who talks too much. It is a body that learned truth would cost her. So now the truth gets padded before it ever gets spoken, and every real conversation starts feeling like something you have to survive instead of something you are allowed to have. It shows up in silence too. From the outside, silence can pass for self-control. Inside, it can be fear putting a hand over your fucking mouth. Plenty of people will call that being balanced. You might even call it taking space. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's also an old move showing up again because saying the right thing still feels too exposing. Then the moment passes, your need gets buried, and the relationship starts carrying tension that nobody talked about. It shows up in the versions of you that look the strongest. A room shifts and your body catches it before anybody else does. Somebody gets close, and when part of you is already keeping the exit bit clearer. Your need gets buried under I'm fine. Wants get buried under I don't care. A question turns into a test because asking feels too naked. Sex gets interrupted by distance. Repair dies halfway through because numbness got there first. Warmth lands, and instead of settling into it, your body starts searching for what's wrong. This is why this gets missed. People keep looking for trauma in places that are ugly, where old survival is sitting right there in all the places that look plain and ordinary. After enough time has passed, those moves start feeling just like part of your nature. Honesty gets delayed. Closeness gets filtered through caution. Intimacy keeps running into a version of you that learned how to stay composed, disappearing. Then you start naming all of that as your way, your standards, your personality, when what is really happening is that an old body is bringing in old survival patterns into a new room or a new relationship. Pain gets dangerous once it starts getting introduced as your identity. The second a pattern starts sounding like this is just who I am, it stops getting interrupted, questioned, and it starts getting protected. Not everything about you came from pain. Your depth, your sharpness, your standards, your intelligence is yours. What old hurt does well is move inside of real traits and bend them until you cannot tell where you end and the defense begins. A sharp read on people is real. So is your instinct. Even so, not every alarm deserves to be trusted just because it came in strong. Some of you are hearing things from a body that learned to panic early because panic once felt safer than being surprised, and you have started treating that reaction like it's a gift. The feeling hits fast, your stomach drops, your mind starts building meaning around it, and now one ordinary human moment is carrying the weight of 10 older ones. All this means is that fear has had too much time at the center and it started speaking in your voice. Composure is another trauma response that gets mistaken all the time. You stay quiet, you hold the reaction in, and from the outside it can look like strength. Underneath of it can be a woman that is disappearing in real time because being direct still feels too risky. People celebrate that version of you because you're easier to deal with, and they do not pay the price of it. You do. Creating distance gets renamed as standards. A wall sounds better when you call it discernment. Being unreachable sounds stronger when you wrap it in self-respect. Meanwhile, love is standing outside trying to reach someone who has not felt safe enough to open in years. Plenty of women are building an identity around hard to access when the real story is that closeness feels like a place where pain can still be leveraged. It gets masked and hidden under things like I'm chill, I don't need much, I'm easygoing, maybe. Or maybe wanting anything at all still tightens your chest because that used to cost you. Some of you are emotionally starving and calling it being low maintenance because that feels less exposing than saying closeness still scares you. Control gets sold as wisdom, tracking tone, reading every shift, chasing certainty, trying to get ahead of anything that might hurt you before it has a chance. From the outside, it looks smart. Inside, it's exhausting. A body trying to outrun every single possible wound never gets to rest. And then that exhaustion starts feeling normal too. Fear hides well because it also matches language around standards and discernment. It circles, it scans, it hunts for the catch. It cannot sit inside uncertainty without trying to turn it into a whole story. A steadier kind of knowing does not move like that. It does not need to make every pause mean something. It does not need to stay on guard to feel strong, but fear does. If you keep mixing the two up, old pain gets treated like wisdom every single time that love will try to walk in. What you call something decides whether it stays in charge or not. Call it your personality and it stays. Call it your edge and it stays. Call it standards and it stays. Then it will start deciding who gets access, how close anyone is allowed to get, what you mistrust, what you chase, what you call chemistry. This is how survival keeps its hands on your love life long after the danger is gone. Love gets bent the second an old wound starts reading the room before you do. The person in front of you can be speaking from the present while your body is halfway into a past you swore you were done with. This is where connection starts to get expensive. Something simple like a need will rise, but it does not leave your mouth. It comes out delayed, hinted at, tested, or hidden behind a colder version of you that acts like you do not care nearly as much as you do. The other person will miss it, and now the original ache has company. Hurt turns into resentment faster when the truth never gets to arrive as itself. Ordinary moments do not stay ordinary once pain has trained your body to expect a turn. A flatter tone can feel like the whole floor is shifting. Someone being distracted for an hour can land like distance, even when distance is not what's happening. The present gets focused to carry the weight around every moment that has taught you to brace for impact. By the time your brain actually catches up, your brain has already built an entire story and has started reacting to that. This is how a relationship starts paying for damage it did not create. Some people will go colder when the the fear hits. They pull back early, get sharp, and make themselves harder to reach because getting ahead of the hurt feels safer than waiting to see if it comes. Other people are the polar opposite. They cling harder, explain more, chase reassurance, and because uncertainty feels super unbearable to them, as they've been trained inside of inconsistency. Different moves, same engine. One hand pushes away, the other grabs. Neither leaves much room for ease, and ease is where a lot of real connection actually lives. The cruel part for you is when someone decent enters the picture. He is steady, he communicates, he does not keep you dangling, there's nothing technically wrong, and your body still cannot settle. The calm, the predictability, a safe kind of love can almost look boring when chaos taught your nervous system how to feel alive. Then shame piles on because this is what you said you wanted. So why does every single part of you still reach for what twists your stomach harder? That confusion is where people start lying to themselves about the chemistry that they think they feel. Conflict will also get really messed up here too. What could have been one honest conversation turns into disappearing, over-explaining, freaking out, crying, and hating that you cried, going cold, shutting down, or trying to win the whole thing before the other person has even said something. So nothing lands, nothing settles, the conflict isn't resolved, the argument ends, but your body does not. It stays up, it keeps score, it waits for the next shift and calls the whole relationship heavy without really admitting to what is making it feel heavy. Old survival does not just change how you react, it changes what love feels like in your hands. I had a client who met a man that most people would call a good thing. He texted back, he showed up when he said he would, he did not disappear or create confusion or leave her hanging in that sick in-between where your whole body starts doing unpaid detective work. From the outside, it looked easy, but inside of her body, it felt awful. She would see his name on her phone and instead of relief, she felt pressure. He was steady enough that there was nowhere for her nervous system to do what it had always done. There was no chase, no guessing, no ache to hide inside. So she started to create distance. Tiny things started to irritate her. The way he would say something, the time he would send a text, how available he felt, how clear he was. She kept looking for the crack because a part of her trusted the crack more than the consistency. She'd shared with me that he had said something very simple. He had asked if she was okay because he could feel her backing off. She then felt like she had nowhere to hide. If this had happened a year earlier, she would have said nothing, gone cold, and waited for him to prove that he cared enough to dig her out of the distance that she created. That was an old pattern, making him work for access and calling it standards and discernment and her peace. Meanwhile, she truly knew that the whole thing was fear, so this time she did not feed into it. This time she stopped feeding into the old pattern. Not because she felt calm, she could feel herself split so clearly that it actually made her sick. One part of her really liked him, but the other part of her wanted to bolt. The harder he was to misunderstand, the less room her trauma had to play its favorite game. She had to admit that there was nothing actually wrong with him. What felt wrong was how exposed she'd become in the presence of someone who was not making her chase. So she actually shared this with him. It wasn't because she needed more of a spark or because her standards were too high. It's because peace felt very foreign. Her body had been trained inside of unpredictability for so long that consistency did not feel safe. It felt vulnerable. It felt like standing out in the open with no script, no emergency, no familiar pain to organize herself around. And that was the real issue that was in the room. Once she could see that, she stopped picking him apart just to give her body a reason to run. She stopped acting like the problem was that he was too clear, too available, and too steady. The real problem was that her old pain had taught her to trust tension more than tenderness. She was not reacting to him. She was reacting to the absence of chaos she used to mistake for chemistry. You say things like you want safe love, and then safe love will show up, and your whole body starts searching for an exit. If you're not honest, you will lose attraction, it will feel flat, it will create doubt, and you will start telling yourself a story about standards or compatibility because that sounds better than your truth. Your truth is that your body is trained by hurt, and it will often trust the ache before it trusts peace. So trauma responses do not just live in attraction, they live in the daily mechanics of being with someone. They get into how you ask or how you hear. It gets into how you react when something hurts. It gets into your sex life, your standards, your trust, your timing, and the way you interpret what is happening between you and the person that you're with. That is why you can still be in a relationship with someone and feel like your body is fighting a ghost in every single room. Take reassurance, for example. You need it, but the need never comes out sounding like a need. It sounds like a question. Can you not reassure me? And it's sharper and stranger and harder to meet. It comes out as a loaded question or something that already disappeared, and it's carrying a whole backstory that the other person was not invited to. So when they miss it, you feel confirmed in the thing that you were already afraid of. Now that cycle tightens. Your body gets to say, see, I knew it. What is rarely admitted is that the need never arrived in a way that gave love a fair shot. This is how trauma wrecks love. You end up needing someone to answer a question that you never fully asked. Then you feel crushed when they did not actually answer it. Meanwhile, your body gets to stay loyal to the lie, the old story that nobody really was shown, the old story that nobody really shows up, nobody gets it, nobody sees you. And that story will stay alive for years if you let it. It will keep feeding itself every single time that a need comes out sideways, and every time a relationship misses something, it was never given a real chance to understand. So you'll sit in the fallout and think that the proof is about them, when sometimes the proof is about how long your body's been protecting itself from being direct. Then there's silence. Not normal silence. I'm going to call it weaponized silence that sits inside of your own body. Something happens, you get hurt, you do not say it, and you go quiet instead. From the outside, that can look like space or self-control. Underneath of it is often a body trying to buy time because truth still feels too exposing. You sit there hoping he will notice, hoping he'll repair it, hoping he'll decode it, hoping he'll come closer, ask the right question, say the right thing, do an impossible mind-reading move that proves he is safe enough to deserve the truth. When he doesn't, now your pain is bigger. You're hurt by the original thing and by the fact that he did not magically rescue you from the fact that you never spoke anything. This is where relationships get exhausted. One person is drowning in something that the other person never got access to. Repair gets hit hard by this too. Someone will say sorry, a conversation happens. On the surface, the issue is addressed. On paper, your body should settle, but it does not buy it. It stays half alert. It keeps the score. It waits for the next shift. You replay the tone. You measure the sincerity. You look for the cracks. So even when repair technically happens, it doesn't land all the way. Then both people start feeling stuck. He believes the conversation happened. You think the conversation did not reach the place that it mattered. Both are standing in the same room, but not in the same reality. Trauma does that. It makes resolution harder to feel because safety is being asked to enter a body that still expects danger. That leaves you in a brutal spot because from the outside, it looks like it was addressed. The apology happened. So did the conversation. The repair was attempted. Even so, your body is still lying there with one eye open. Your mind is still replaying everything. That is how relationships start feeling heavy when nothing obvious is wrong. The piece never fully landed. So both people start carrying confusion. He thinks the conversation settled something. She does not feel the same. Neither people are crazy. She knows something still feels unfinished. They are just standing in different realities because trauma can make the nervous system far slower to trust than the words on the surface might suggest. Trust also gets distorted. You can have someone in front of you who has not actually broken your trust and still find yourself behaving like a betrayal is already warming up in the bullpen. You question before there's anything to question. You monitor before there's anything to monitor. You stay emotionally half-packed like you might need to leave fast. This changes the entire energy of a relationship. Real trust needs enough softness to let the present be present. Trauma keeps trying to turn the present into evidence of the past. Then you'll call it something like intuition and wonder why your relationship never feels quite peaceful. Standards are something that get warped when trauma is still in charge. Sometimes you lower them because scarcity has trained you to call crumbs enough. Other times you turn them into walls so thick no human being could ever get through it. That is why some of you swing between tolerating nonsense and cutting people off so fast they never had a chance to breathe. Both can come from the same wound. One says, I will take anything because I do not trust there is more. The other says, I will take nothing because I do not trust myself to survive the wrong thing again. Neither have actual power. Both are survival trying to avoid pain. Timing is something that gets very messy with trauma responses too. You can delay saying something until it's really bothering you. You can delay saying something until it's almost too late. You can wait until resentment is doing the talking and then wonder why the conversation comes out hot instead of honest. Or you can rush intimacy because your body still mistakes intensity for safety and wants to lock something in before it's actually been tested. Trauma has a way of pushing timing out of alignment. Things come too late or too early, and very little arrives in the middle where truth actually works best. This is why I called this podcast episode Why Trauma Responses Are Fucking Up Your Relationship. Not because you're you're impossible to love. It's because survival is still showing up in these small amounts to make a relationship either feel safe enough to deepen or tense enough to slowly rot. It shapes how you bring up need, how you handle hurt, how you receive repair, how you trust, how open you are, how you stay, and how you leave. This is why surface level relationship advice does not touch this. You cannot communicate tip your way out of a nervous system that still thinks closeness is expensive. This is why I created the RRR membership, because the root of the trauma response is still running. The relationship becomes a place where the old pattern keeps playing out. You know better and still do not know what to do. You can know better and still not know how to do better in your body. That is a gap that a lot of people get stuck. They are self-aware enough to name the pattern and still not free enough to stop it. They understand why they do what they do and still feel hijacked in the moments that matter the most. Knowledge without repair can leave you articulate and still stuck. Repair changes what your body does when actual love shows up. So healing trauma responses does not look like becoming easier to access for everyone. It does not look like dropping every guard, forcing softness, or pretending your body is not still learning. It looks like more truth and less performance. It looks like catching the old moves sooner in the moment where it used to run you. The shift is not that you stopped feeling anything. It's that feeling something no longer gets to make every decision for you. A healing response asks instead of tests. The need still rises. The fear still shows up. The old urge to hint, overread, pull back, or make the other person prove something can still flicker. The difference is that now you know what is happening while it is happening. You may have the urge to go sideways, and instead of feeding into it, you bring the thing out straight. That might sound simple. In real life, it's big. For a body that learned direct need could get punished, a straight ass can feel like standing naked in the middle of traffic. Even so, that is where love starts getting a real shot, because now the other person is dealing with your truth instead of your defense. These things can sound like very small shifts until you remember what it cost you before. For some of you, asking directly felt more exposing than the original need itself. It can feel easier to stay hurt or confused or resentful or halfway gone than to stand there and let the truth be seen. Healing actually asks you for that risk. It asks you to stop making the other person chase the truth out of you to prove that they care. It asks you to stop turning every need into a test. This is not tiny work. It's work that will change the whole feeling of love because it changes the way your body enters the moment. It can also look like saying it earlier, not after the resentment has already built a house in your chest, or when the tone has gone sharp enough to cut the conversation in half, when the thing is still small enough to be honest instead of explosive. That timing changes the whole feeling of the relationship. A lot of women that have experienced trauma wait until the pain is boiling, then try to have a straight conversation while their body is halfway into a war. Healing pulls the truth forward. It lets the moment be handled before it turns into a case file. Another part of this is learning how to not over-explain the need. A body trained by pain loves a disclaimer. Healing does not mean that you become blunt. It means that you get to stay intact. It means that you stop turning one clear sentence into a full argument for your own humanity. Calm has to become enough. That is one of the most uncomfortable parts of real repair, because calm can feel almost unnerving when your body is used to earning closeness through tension. You can sit with someone and still feel an urge to create movement where none is actually needed. You can feel yourself wanting more charge, more proof, more signal, because the old system still thinks that intensity means something important is happening. True healing is staying there long enough for your body to learn that peace does not mean dead. Steady does not mean empty. Safe does not mean flat. It just means that your nervous system is not being jerked around for once. And this is where a lot of you will want to run, because the body can get so used to charge that peace feels almost empty in the beginning. It does not know yet that ease can be full, that steadiness can have depth. It only knows that nobody is chasing, nobody is disappearing, and nobody is flooding the room with uncertainty. And without that old rhythm, your system can start panicking over the lack of panic. Staying long enough in your body to learn a new rhythm for your nervous system is part of the deeper work. Not pretending it already feels natural. Staying with the discomfort long enough to stop mistaking the absence of chaos for the absence of love. Conflict changes too. A healing response stays in the room longer. It may not look perfect in the beginning. It just does not abandon the moment so fast. You may notice the urge to go cold or shut down or to explain yourself, to prove, to flee, to get loud, or to do whatever old move once kept you safe. When you stay in your seat a little bit longer, you stay with yourself, you stay with the connection, and you let the issue be the issue. And instead of dragging 10 old injuries back into it, asking the person in front of you to answer for all of them. At some point, this stops being a conversation you nod along to and starts becoming a decision that costs you something. You can hear yourself in this episode, recognize the pattern, even feel gutted by how much all of this fits, but still leave your love life in the hands of the same old survival if nothing actually changes after that. More awareness will not save your body if it still gets the final say every time closest starts to feel real. You can still understand the pattern and still keep living inside of it. Plenty of people do. And that's the dangerous part. Not that you don't know enough. You probably know more than enough. The danger for you is that the old pain still knows how to sound convincing in your head. It knows how to make distance sound smart, how to make fear sound wise, and how to make a wall sound like self-respect. It can still talk you into pulling away from someone that's steady, doubting what is kind, and overvaluing what keeps you chasing because the chase feels more familiar than peace ever has. This is where a lot of people will lose years of their life, not because they've never heard the truth, but because they heard it and they still let survival take it over anyways. If you do not deal with this, the pattern will not stay small. It will keep moving through everything. It dictates how you date. It gets into what you trust, what you tolerate, how you ask, fight, receive, and how quickly you start bracing when someone finally shows up in a way that should feel good. You can end up with a man who's trying to love the real you, while your body is handing him a version of you built for war. That gets expensive. It costs peace, softness, desire, your ability to stay warm in a room long enough for something good to actually become good for you. Doing this work will also cost you something, but it costs you the right things. The excuses that made the pattern easier to protect, the identity built around being the woman who never needs much, never says much, never gets caught off guard, never lets anyone get close enough to matter. It cost you the stories that made your reactions feel noble when all you were doing was hiding in old pain to stay in charge. It cost you the fantasy that one day the right man will arrive and somehow you pull all of this out of your body for you. He will not. A man cannot heal a pattern he did not build. A lot of women will burn years waiting for love to fix what only truth and repair can. They think that the right man will make them feel safe enough, chosen enough, loved enough, and then the old reactions will finally stop. What usually happens is the opposite. The right man will get close enough to expose what is still unhealed, and then that old pain starts fighting for its life. So no, the answer is not to wait for a better man to pull you into your peace. Your real answer is to stop asking future love to clean up the damage that still needs your direct attention right now. So the real decision here is simple, even if it is not easy. You either keep letting old survival choose your relationships, or you decide it stops here. You either keep feeding the part of yourself that mistrusts peace, overreads everything, and keeps one foot on the exit, or you start building the version of you that can stay present in love without handing the whole thing over to fear. There is no neutral ground here. Staying in the middle costs you your life. I know, and you know, what it costs you when you let old pain choose. Your current proof right now is your life. You already know what this feels like in real time. So decide whether you are done handing your relationships over to the part of you that only knows how to survive them. Decide whether you are done calling walls standards, distance, power, and fear discernment. Decide whether this gets to keep costing you softness, peace, trust, desire, and one more shot at something real. Because if you are done, then be done. Not interested, not almost ready, be done. If this episode cracks something open in you good, that means you're waking up. Please share this with another woman who needs it. Send me a DM on Instagram and tell me what landed the hardest for you. Now, I want to make a clear path forward for you so you have direct next steps to get love and support from me. Right now, you're in one of two places. If your body is reacting before your brain has even caught up, you do not need more dating advice or content about standards or another man to practice on where old pain is still choosing you. You need root coaching work. You need the part where you stop calling survival your personality and start dealing with what abusive relationships actually did to your body. That is the RRR membership. This is where you go when you are tired of living like old pain still gets a final say. This is where I will coach you how to get your self-trust back online, understand your body reactions, know your emotional regulation, and have the ability to stop handing relationships over to survival. If this episode exposed that your body is still choosing for you in love, do not leave that at recognition. Get in the room where you actually get it dealt with. Recognition without repair will leave you sounding smart, will keep your life repeating. The RRR membership is where the root of abuse gets handled, so you stop calling old pain something important and you start reaching for something steadier than survival, which is yourself. We also have the Black Cat Academy. This is not a starting line for the woman whose body is still getting dragged around by old pain every time love gets close. This is the next chapter after the root work has already been done. This is where your standards stop being fear. That is where dating gets better. Your desire stops being wired to chaos, where your discernment gets sharper because you're not reading every room through the same old wound. This is where your power shows up in ways that you choose, the way that you receive, the way that you walk, and the way that you stop confusing chaos with chemistry. The Black Cat Academy is where repair starts showing on you, in the way you date, in the way you choose, and the way you hold standards without turning them into walls. So for clarity, the difference between the two, the RRR membership is abuse, recovery, repair. The Black Cat Academy is what repair looks like in love, standards, dating, desire, and power. If you skip the first one and try to jump straight into the second, old pain is still going to be choosing for you. You will still be reacting from the same wound, just stronger words around it. That is why the order of your healing actually matters. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, where old survival stops running your love life.